Hello, students. Hope you are all doing well in these days of pandemic and also partial curfew that is going on in the city. I hope you and all your family members are doing well and be courageous. And even if something goes wrong, don't be get disheartened or disappointed because things will get right. Okay. In the name of if you need any help, of course, psychological counseling or to some extent financial also, you can of course contact us and mm, and try to keep updates of your well-being also. Okay, hope take care of your health also. Okay. In continuation to the previous two lectures that we have gone through about the introduction of Bhaktin and also his concepts of polyphony and dialogism, and how dialogism is in contradiction to monologism, or in fact monologism is in contradiction to dialogism, and how Bakhtin says that language by nature or inherently is dialogic, and he feels that dialogism is what is needed because despotism, of course, will lead to the exploitation or suppression of many of the people. So, in continuation to those introductory lectures that we had, today I'm going to begin with the essay that is prescribed for your study, that is discourse in the novel. So, as the title itself reveals, it is about novel, and we have already seen how Bakhtin actually was bringing out the greatness of Dostoevsky, one of the great novelists in Russia. And what is his uniqueness, or what is the uniqueness you can find in his literature? So, towards the poetics of Dostoevsky's, in his work, he brought out that Dostoevsky's works are very dialogic. So, in continuation to that, let us now see what Bakhtin is saying about the discourse of the novel, or discourse of the novel. So, because let me share my presentation to you. Yeah, just a minute. Actually, I have closed my presentation. I will just open it. Just a minute, bear with me. I hope you have gone through the previous lectures that I have been posting in your WhatsApp group. Please try to listen. Okay, please try to listen each and every lecture that I am posting. And if you are not able to follow the lecture, try to listen once or twice or thrice also. And you can also take some of the notes while listening. If I have PPT, you can of course write down from the slides. So let us come to this essay, that is discourse in the novel. To give you the introduction, actually, this essay is written in Russian, okay, language in 1934 and also 1935, while Bakhtin was actually in exile in Kazakhstan. We have seen during the brief introduction that we had to his biography or his life and his works, we have seen that Bakhtin was forced to be in exile because of the repressive Stalinistic regime, and his works were felt to be a threatening force for the dictatorship of Stalin, because he was talking about the democratic ideals, though not mentioned as democratic. He actually was in favor of Marxist form of government, not a dictatorship. So he was forced to be in exile, and during that period, he wrote this essay, discourse in the novel. And but of course, it was not published until 1973. It was translated later, and it was included in Bakhtin's popular work, The Dialogic Imagination, which is published as a whole in 1975, where this was a compilation of 4 essays concerning language and the essay. Okay, so what are the 4 essays? Epic and novel, From the Prehistory of Novelistic Discourse, Forms of Time and the Chronotope in the Novel, and Discourse in the Novel. So these are all regarding novel only. Bakhtin is very fascinated with the form of the novel. Perhaps this is due to his liking for Dostoevsky's literature, which was very, what you say, effective, and he felt that Dostoevsky was a great master of literature. And to analyze, of course, he tried to explore more into the form of the novel, because as we have seen already, many essays like Tradition and the Individual Talent, and Linguistics and Poetics, and of course Aristotle's Poetics, and all other, even some other essays also, in which we have seen poetry. The word is used as if it is synonymous for all forms of literature. Okay, and there was not much discussion, or there was not much effort to distinguish one genre from the other. Moreover, poetry, as I used to say in your class also, is felt to be the noblest of the genres, and that is why it was, of course, a predominant genre in the poetics, in the discourses on the poetics, or the analysis or evaluation of literature, or literary criticism, or literary theory. So, of course, there are some other books, F.R. Lewis and some other critics have written, of course, regarding the novel. Yet, Bakhtin's, of course, analysis of the novel and how to evaluate that, etc. What is the difference between the poetry and the language of poetry and the language of novel, etc. is very interesting. And also, they are presenting a new way of, new point of view for us to look at the novel. And this, however, will help us to read novels in a better manner if we read this essay. To begin with, this essay, we can, of course, divide this into 7 parts, the whole essay. I don't think all the 7 parts are prescribed for you. It is only 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, 1 is a brief 2 paragraphs, which is like introduction. And then 2, 3, 4 are the important concepts. So, however, I have given you the 7 parts of the essay here. So, 1 is introduction, and second one is modern stylistics and the novel. Discourse in the poetry and the novel. Third one, heteroglossia in the novel. The speaking person and the novel. And 2 stylistic lines of development in the European novel. And conclusion. So these are the 7 parts of the essay that is written by Bakhtin. So what he proceeds to say in the first part, which is nothing but an introduction. He's introducing, actually introducing his concept, what he is going to deal with in this essay. That is what he says. And to begin with, he says that the principal idea of this essay is that the study of verbal art can and must overcome the diverse between an abstract formal approach and an equally abstract ideological approach. So we have 2 ways or 2 approaches for verbal art. Of course, verbal art, when we say, as we have seen it in the essay that is Linguistics and Poetics by Roman Jakobson, verbal art, any language in literature, of course, is a verbal art. And moreover, in the Jacobson's essay, we have seen that a verbal message, though it be in literature or outside literature, he proceeds to say and establish that they are goal oriented. So no language or no speech event or speech utterance will be without any goal. There we have seen. So verbal art, Bakhtin also is mentioning here verbal art. So it need not be only novel, but it can be any other genre also. But what he is trying to present in the introduction is that the whole aim or goal of Bakhtin behind writing this essay is, according to him, he says that this study of verbal art, so it is like literary criticism or evaluation, etc. He says that should and must, must overcome the diverse between an abstract formal approach and an equally abstract ideological approach. So we approach the verbal art either through the formal approach, formalism. Okay, we know what is Russian formalism, which is emphasizing more on the form. Okay, form of language, form of a genre. Okay, form of a text, etc. And then, there are two ways in evaluating the verbal art. One is formal and the ideological. And Bakhtin says that both of them are abstract. They are not concrete. And we have to come out of this division because according to Bakhtin, he say form and content in discourse are one. So what he wants to establish in this essay, firstly, is to say that form and content are one and the same. And once we understand that verbal discourse is a social phenomenon, so he says that when can we understand or when can we agree that form and content are one and the same? This, he says that only when we recognize the social phenomenon of language, that is language, then only we can agree that this form and content are one and the same. And he says, emphasizing more on the social phenomena of the verbal art, he says, they say actually verbal discourse, he says, social throughout its entire range. So social not to some extent, that is his point of view. So verbal art is social throughout its entire range and in each and every of its factors. In all its factors, verbal art is social. And from the sound image to the furthest reaches of abstract meaning. So he is including all in between these two. He says that from the sound image. So we have seen what is the sound image in while we were discussing Ferdinand de Saussure. Okay, their sign, signifier, signified, etc. So how the sound image, okay, listening to one sound, we will form an image in our mind, that is the sound image. And of course there itself we have already learned that language is a social phenomenon. Saussure also has established the same thing. So Bakhtin, of course, is considered at the same time a structuralist, a Marxist, a post-structuralist, a linguist, okay, and all. And of course I feel when we read and when we read more and more into the theories of Bakhtin, we feel that he is amalgamating everything. He's making a synthesis of many things, and that is why he is claimed to be the structuralist by structuralists, post-structuralist as by post-structuralists, and then linguist by linguists, and then he is also a Marxist by the Marxists. So many things or many theories are interconnected, and of course he brings everything into to give us a kind of a theory on the novel. So he says that let us not think that the verbal message is a social phenomenon, not to a certain extent, but in all its range, it is social. And he says he gives the two extremes of the sound image to the meaning. So where we have seen the sound image and how it is a social factor in Sashio's essay, the object of study. And now he is saying that, Bakhtin is saying that to the reaches of the abstract meanings are not contract. Okay, sorry, concrete. So that also we have already examined. So he says that from sound image to the meaning, of course, language is a social phenomena, or verbal art here for Bakhtin is a social phenomena. And that is why he is saying that let us not go into the division of form and the content. So it is not the formal approach, of course, always seeks to explore or investigate into the formal techniques or forms, etc. Whereas the ideological approach will be trying to find out what is the ideology behind a particular text or a particular verbal art, etc. So, but he says, Bakhtin says that let us not go into this diverse between the difference between these two, and that is what in the very beginning of the first essay, this first paragraph, he establishes that his aim is to his aim is to remove this diverse that we maintain. Okay, we maintain unto present a kind of and to present that a verbal art is a social phenomena in its entire range, not to some extent. Okay, and further in this introductory part, the first paragraph, he establishes his aim, and then in the second paragraph, if we go, he says that the traditional stylistics, sorry, we have a spelling mistake here. Stylistics. What is stylistics? Stylistics is actually defined as a study of private craftsmanship. Stylistics is to explore the style of a poet. Okay, style of writing, language style, or style, the thematic style, or etc. So stylistics is sounds somewhat technical, and he says that this of course this was there from the beginning, and all, as I told you, the theories that were emanating or being produced were produced considering or keeping in view the poetry, because poetry is the very predominant genre, and of course noble genre, and of course it is the toughest genre where you need a special orientation to go through the lines of poetry and to find out what are the special techniques that the poets are adopting to make their poetry impressive, as we have many terms like rhyme, rhythm, meter, and imagery, okay, etc. So many so much of technical knowledge is required to analyze the poetry. And of course the study of these all things is framed or is brought under one area, that is stylistics. Traditionally, in olden days, he says that this stylistics, which is called as traditional stylistics, according to Bakhtin, has ignored the social tone of the discourse. So of course Bakhtin is emphasizing that recognizing the social phenomena of a verbal message is the key point here. But the stylistics, which is a branch of study of poetry, the styles of literature or evaluation of literature, etc., of course, did not identify the social tone of discourse. Hence, he says that it could not develop stylistics of genre. Here, in his intention or in his view, specifically for novel. So they the old stylisticians or traditional stylisticians felt that all literature can be summed up into one genre, like poetics or poet. Poetics is nothing but the analysis of literature. We actually are having a kind of umbrella term for the analysis of any genre, but Bakhtin is stating that this is not sufficient. So whatever the stylistics that was developed till say 19th century or even to the beginning decades of 20th century, those are not adequate to develop a kind of a separate branch of stylistics of genre. Say genres we have no poetic genres, you have prose we have. So all these, especially according to Bakhtin, he says that for novel there was no separate stylistics. Okay. And of course, in that paragraph, in the second paragraph, you can read the text, which you can download, of course, from the Google. If you can't, please let me know. I will try to search and send you the PDF. If you read that paragraph, you will notice that he was trying to establish the insufficiency or inadequacy of the traditional stylistics to bring out an effective analysis of the novel or the uniqueness of the novel as a genre, and of course trying to separating it from other genres. And by definition, he says that the stylistics as a stylistics of private craftsmanship is what limiting the area as a study of individual and tendentious overtones of style. So tendentious are supporting one argument, etc. very vehemently. Okay, so there he says that this stylistics, which is defining itself as the study of the private craftsmanship, is of course not sufficient, because a novel is not a private thing, it is a social thing. So he says that this traditional stylistics is cut away from the fundamentally social modes in which discourse lives, according to him. Bakhtin as well as Saussure, of course, emphasize the social tones of the discourse. Any discourse, taken any discourse, they say that it involves the social mode or social tone, and the old stylistics of course ignores this. This is because of one more thing, because poetry is always considered as a very separate genre, and then which is away or above the day-to-day language. Poetic language, there were many attempts to define poetic language. Okay, Ars Poetica, Sir Philip Sidney, and of course what is there in literature, especially literature till the 19th century also, the word poetry is synonymous with literature. So we can see the overpowering ability of poetry as a genre, because all other genres are considered to be very all other genres are considered to be lower than the poetry as a genre. So, and moreover, it is of course it depends upon the personal ability. And when poetry is written, what we have to personal, of course, will always lead to a kind of subjective evaluation, where you will try to find out the style of the poet, or the language of language of a particular period, etc. Of course, you can here recollect how we also have read different periods of literature, okay, having a dominance of a particular theme or particular style of writing, etc. Neoclassic, you have heroic couplet. Elizabethan period, you have sonnet. and romantic period you have odes. Okay, so like that, he says that because of the established knowledge that was circulating or surrounding through the genre of poetry, he says that the stylistics could not find out enough or could not focus enough on the novel as a genre, because any genre beside poetry, any genre that is not poetry is considered to be just prose, which is not poetic. Okay, and of course prose is devalued and devalidated, and I was thinking that it is nothing but a day-to-day language, etc. We'll come into that. So this is the second paragraph. Of course, his contention, Bakhtin's contention, was to say that the traditional stylistics, of course, could not found a place for the novel, and which, of course, is like a prosaic discourse, and it is always viewed as an extra artistic medium. So this is what actually I didn't get the idea about the novel or essay or short story, whatever it is. Bakhtin says that in the literary circles or among the literary scholars, there is a view that this is an extra artistic medium. It is not an artistic medium like poetry. So the poetry as a genre and novel, short story or essays, etc. as genres are counterposed always. And then this side, poetry is always considered very artistic in its expression, use of figures of speech or rhyme, rhythm, etc., meter, and all those. And whereas it is always believed that the prose, novel or short stories are extra artistic, where you may not have any ornamentation of the language through the figures of speech or images, symbols. Of course, which is not 100% correct, because even in prose language you will find metaphors, similes, and a particular style of writing, etc. So, but this is always ignored. And he says that, Bakhtin says that the novel is always viewed like this, an extra artistic medium, and also an artistically neutral means of communication on the same level as practical speech. So there was no difference that was seen between the everyday, day-to-day speech and novel. So novel, being one of the prose genres, is always treated as lower than poetry. So in the introductory speech, introductory paragraphs, Bakhtin establishes why novel, separate stylistics of novel could not be developed, because the prevailing notions or conceptions, which were, of course, according to Bakhtin, were erroneous, and these are the views that could not encourage anyone to work on the stylistics of the novel, especially a separate stylistics of the novel especially. So in the introductory 2 paragraphs itself, he establishes the 2 or 3 key important issues that he is going to deal with in the essay. So they are to present that verbal art is social in its entire range, and to say that the traditional stylistics was not enough to bring out the uniqueness of the novel. And of course, are there any attempts in the modern stylistics to analyze the novel? That was also is going to be dealt in the next part of the essay. That is the second part, which is headed, as I have already given you the parts. It is modern stylistics and the novel. So modern stylistics and the novel. So now he is, of course, he explained us the insufficiency or inadequacy of old or traditional stylistics, and which of course could not create a congenial atmosphere to develop a separate stylistics for the novel. So now we have to examine what is the modern stylistics and how far it has come. Okay. Now Bakhtin acknowledges in this part that in 1920s some attempts were made. Of course, here he might be thinking of the Russian formalists who were trying to focus more on the verbal structure or verbal messages. And then, of course, even in Jakobson, we can find that he tried to what do you say remove, okay, the difference between the regular verbal messages and the language of literature. That is what he refers as differentia specifica. So the goal of any literary theory or literary criticism is to find out or is to establish what is the difference between the ordinary language and poetic language. So there itself, of course, there were some kinds of efforts which were began to focus more on the stylistic uniqueness of artistic prose as distinct from poetry. So in 1920s, there were attempts to maintain the distinction between the poetry and prose. Then prose also has began to receive attention by the thinkers and scholars as a kind of artistic form only, prose language also. So, however, he says that though attempts were made, he says that such endeavors stopped merely at the point of revealing the inabilities of traditional stylistic categories to explore the uniqueness of novelistic discourse. He says that though they have focused upon to bring out the uniqueness of artistic prose, they could not bring out completely what exactly was the uniqueness of novelistic discourse. They ended up finding out that the traditional stylistics was not enough, or they failed to categorize the uniqueness of novelistic discourse. And then he proceeds to say, for a long time, the treatment of the novel was limited to a little more abstract ideological examination and a publicistic commentary. See, actually, even in your classroom also, you could have noticed when teaching poetry, of course, I may ask you to see what are the rhyming words, or what is the style of language of the poet, etc. But when we come to the kind of drama or novel or essay, etc., you may be focusing more upon the overall idea, or what is the ideology behind the essay or novel, etc. What are the themes into which ideologies that they were running into, or what are the novelists or dramatists were exploring, etc. This is a kind of actually taken for granted analysis of the novel, and we mostly focus, of course, on for a long time, and even now also to some extent we are trying to focus more on the ideological examination and a publicistic commentary. And then he says that though there were analysis that were published after 1920s regarding a novel, Bakhtin says that they were limited to an empty evaluative terms for the characterization of the language of novel, such as expressiveness, imagery, force, clarity, and so on. These are the same things that we focus to bring out in poetry also. So, though there were attempts even in the 20th century, first half of the 20th century to bring out the uniqueness of the novel, they were also not sufficient, and they were moreover, what do you say, proceeding with the style of the old or traditional stylistics only, which were focusing, like in poetry, on the expressiveness of language and imagery and force and then clarity and so on. So he feels that though in the modern era, of course, in the 20th century, there was interest, okay, about the uh, concrete problems of artistic craftsmanship in prose, in the problems of novel and short story. Techniques had begun, but the questions of stylistics did not change. As we have seen, the traditional stylistics of poetry was also focusing on expressiveness, imagery, force, etc. And these stylistics, of course, in the 19th century, were also focusing on the same questions. That is, though it is an analysis of the novel, they were focusing on the questions that were used to be focused on poetry. And then he says that in the literary circles, considering novelistic discourse an extra artistic medium, this of course we have touched. And as I told you in Bakhtin's essays, a kind of repetition occurs again and again. And he says that, again he goes back and says that novel is always neglected as an extra artistic medium, and that is why it was not given a proper place in the and it was not given it was denied any artistic value. People felt that like the prose discourse, novel, because it is also considered as one of the forms of prose discourse, was always was denied any artistic value, unlike poetry. This is very much unlike poetry. And then let us see what he proceeds to say. Okay. So he says that the language of novelistic prose was usually considered as the language of everyday, okay, life, or it is also as the speech for scientific purpose and as a neutral means of communication. Here actually he gives one example. In 1920s, one of the writers, Russian critics and writers, V.M. Germunsky. He was a very important fellow traveler of the formalists. He is referring to Russian formalist school. And this man was writing, like this: when lyrical poetry appears to be authentically a work of verbal art. See, the statement is very important. He wrote like this. Who was a formalist only. They also have tried to bring out the stylistics of novel. Yet he is trying to present how their attempts were not able to accept the uniqueness of the novel as a genre, and they could not consider novel as a form of verbal art. That is very important. He says that when lyrical poetry appears to be authentically a work of verbal art. So for this Germunsky, one of the Russian writers, the lyrical poetry is an authentically verbal art form due to its choice and combination of words. Why it is being considered as an artistic form authentically? Because we have in that means in poetry, a combination of words, choice and combination. This is what we have already seen in Roman Jakobson's essay, Linguistics and Poetics, wherein he says that what is the empirical forms that could be studied, empirical forms in poetry that could be studied under linguistics. So he actually says that poetry follows a process of selection and combination. Selecting and combination. This he says that though we call this as an artistic way of presenting words, etc., is nothing but a linguistic process. So Jacobson, of course, has established that selection and combination is a linguistic process. And of course, poetry, poetics can be considered as a part of what do you call a part of verbal art. And of course, there he was referring to poetry only, because in poetry we have this. Here also, Jimdusky is considering that, and he is saying that why the language of lyrical poetry is authentically a form of verbal art, because in it we can see that there is a choice and combination of words on semantic as well as sound levels. This also we have seen in Jacobson's essay. And what levels this choice and combination of words occur on semantic as well as sound levels also. And all of which are completely subordinated to the aesthetic project. So why this combination of selection, choice, combination, semantic level, phonetic level, sound levels. Phonetic levels means sound levels is occurring. It is all subordinated, completely subordinated to the aesthetic project. And Tolstoy's novel, by contrast, see, this is more important. He says that lyrical poetry is a verbal art, very authentically. Unlike this, he says, Tolstoy's novel, by contrast, which is free in its verbal composition. So, this Jermoniski is stating that in poetry you find this artistic exercise of selection, choice, and combination. But when you come to novel, especially he is referring to Tolstoy's novel, it is free of verbal composition. It does not use words as an artistically significant element of interaction. So he is directly stating that novel as a form will not have this kind of choosing and combining the words very carefully. And then he also is saying that it is in interactions, but a neutral medium or as a system of significations subordinated, as happens in practical speech. He says that in novel, you will find the language as you find it in the day-to-day language, or that is the practical speech, to the communicative function, directing our attention to thematic aspects quite abstracted from purely verbal considerations. So there we don't have any verbal considerations, how words are being combined, how words are being chosen, and how words are being organized in a sentence, etc., is not a concern in the novel, because he says that we are forced to turn our attention to the thematic aspects only, not the formalistic aspect. Okay, and thematic aspect quite abstracted from purely verbal considerations. So we cannot call such a literary work a work of verbal art, or in any case, not in the sense that the term is used for lyrical poetry. So here we have a good example how even in 1920s, people were considering novel as an extra artistic medium only. And he says that the novel is not using language as poetry uses. So we cannot call novel as a verbal art. Even if you want to call it, not in the fullest meaning of the verbal art, the word verbal art, which you use in poetry. So in poetry it is completely a verbal art, but in prose it is not so. So however, he says that this idea, of course, has started began to change after 1920s. Actually, it is this idea which we were, of course, written is in 1920s only, and a little bit of artistic. What they have concluded, like Germanisky, they have concluded is that though not as artistic as poetry, of course, novel is also artistic in a different manner. That is what. And so, Bakhtin says that, of course, this situation, the prevailing situation of considering novel as an extra artistic medium, began to change in 1920s. And at the time, of course, then it was, of course, identified that traditional stylistics were not applicable to novelistic discourse. Okay, novelistic discourse. So, however, though stylistic analysis of the novel, okay, were taken up, analysis, okay, analysis of the analysis of the novel were taken up. Bakhtin says that those had either strayed into linguistic descriptions of the language of a given novelist, or limited to separate or isolated stylistic elements of the novel, which were included in the traditional stylistics. Though there was a different focus, say from linguistic perspective and others, the analysis of the novel remained similar as it was in the traditional stylistics. And then he says that, let me refer to one thing. Yeah, one slide I think I have missed. Yeah. Here he says that after observing how the traditional stylistics were treating the genre of the novel and the modern stylistics were treating the genre of novel, and how they were insufficient, how they were not able to catch the uniqueness of the novelistic discourse, he presents his own idea of the novel. So he says that the stylistic whole of the novel and its discourse, of course, escaped the investigators, or who wanted to investigate the uniqueness of the novel could not catch that. That is what. So after stating that, he says that novel as a whole is the phenomenon multiform in style and variform in speech and voice. Oh, what is this? Oh, he says novel is a phenomenon. Multiform, multiple forms are there. Formalism, it is of studying a form. But what in novel, you won't find any single form, but multiple forms will be there, especially in style. And then varied forms, okay, many forms in speech and voice. So how this is, he says it is, after saying this statement, he says that in the novel, the investigator is confronted with several heterogeneous stylistic unities. Several heterogeneous. The different stylistic unities will be there in the novel, if one wants to examine the novel will present to us multiple forms in style that are the heterogeneous stylistic unities, often located on different linguistic levels. They are located on different linguistic levels and subject to different stylistic controls. They are subject to different stylistic controls. So based on his idea, okay, of what the novel is, what is the uniqueness of the novel is now presented by Bakhtin. So multiform and variform. Multiform in style, variform in speech and voice. That is what he said. So depending upon these multiple styles and forms that are present in a novel, he says that the novels will have the following 5 compositional stylistic unities. So what are they? First, direct authorial literature, direct authorial literary hyphen artistic narration in all its diverse variants. See, direct authorial literary artistic narration. Author, authorial means author or novelist. So they, in the novel you will find, of course, the direct narration of the narrator, whom we consider as the novelist only. Okay, so there is he, of course, the narrator will bring his own style, a literary artistic narration, his own style of narration in all its diverse variants. And we can't think that in a novel the style of the narrator will be uniform as it is in a poem. It will be different. It will be having different variants. And then second one is stylization of the various forms of oral everyday narration. So of course, where novel comes from society only. Of course, we think that all literature comes from the society only. And that is why Bakhtin also has emphasized on the social aspect of course, any verbal art. Of course, poetry also the same thing. So here he says that in the novel, what you find is stylization of the various forms of oral everyday narration, which in Russian language is called as skaz. Skaz. Okay, skaz. Then he says that everyday language is taken, but let us not think that everyday language is present as it is, but they are stylized by the novelist or the narrator. That is why Bakhtin is saying that stylization of the various forms of oral everyday narration. So oral everyday narrations are taken and they are stylized in the novel. And then third one, according to Bakhtin, stylization of the various forms of semi-literary. So semi-literary forms written, okay, semi-literary forms written everyday narration, semi-literary everyday narration like the letter, diary, etc. In the first semester you have read one paper, that is Introduction to Literature, where you might have had this distinction of all what is literature, semi-literary, paraliterature, etc. So here he is referring to, in the novel we will find some semi-literary forms also, like the letter, the diary, etc. You might have come across the instances where a letter will be read, okay, in a novel, or the diary will be included in between the novel chapters, etc. So there will be a stylization of various semi-literary forms in the novel. And then various forms of literary but extra artistic authorial speech. So various forms of literary but extra artistic authorial like moral, philosophical, scientific statement, oratory, ethnographic description, memoranda, and so forth. You have, if you read, some novels, one or the other character will be presenting the philosophical, his own way of the philosophical understanding of the world, and some may be presenting the scientific statements, some may have great orations included in the novels. So all those extra artistic authorial speech are also included in the novel. And then the stylistically individualized speech of characters. Besides all this, you have stylistically individualized speech of character. Each character will have a particular style. The stylistically individualized speech of characters. Each character will be maintained individually, and each character will have a style, which of course is written by the novelist only. So these are the 5 compositional units, okay, which we will find in the novel. Of course, Bhakti says that this stylistic uniqueness of the novel lies in the combination of these 5 subordinated yet relatively autonomous units. So we may think that they are on the whole in the novel, and they may not have their individual existence or freedom, but he says that they are relatively free also. And he further says that the language of the novel is the system of its languages. So within the novel, you have a system of languages which will be combined into a whole as per the 5 compositional stylistic unities. Within the language of the novel, we find a system of languages. How we are going to find that, I will tell you. So he says that novel can be defined as a diversities of social speech types, languages, individual voices, which are artistically organized. So according to Bakhtin, any given language is internally stratified. See, stratified is divided. And into what? See what he says. Every language is internally stratified with all these, what do you call, varieties. Okay, what are they? Social dialects. I hope you know what is the meaning of a dialect. So social dialect, and then characteristic group behavior. A particular group will have a particular language. Okay, you can give me examples. If it is in the physical class, I could have asked you to interact. Of course, even you can interact even in the feedback, in the way of feedback in a WhatsApp group also. Professional jargons, an engineer's language, a doctor's language, or a professor's language, or a software employee's language, etc. So these are all lawyers, okay? All these professional jargons will be there. And generic language, a language of genre. And then languages of generations, generations, one generation to the other generation. My fathers might have seen one kind of language. I will be exposed to one kind of language, and then my children or you will be, of course, exposed to one kind of language. For example, let me tell you, my grandma, when she used to speak, always used to quote so many proverbs. In that generation, people are very much familiar with proverbs. When it comes to my mother, of course, she used to use now and then, not many as my grandma used to. And while when we come to me, the generation, my grandma, my mother, and I'm the 3rd generation. And now I speak rarely. The use of proverbs is very rare. And even if I use, my kids keep on asking what is the meaning of that. So of course, from generations to generation to the generation, how language changes. So they are considered as kind of languages only. And then languages of age groups. Children will be having a particular language. You people, all the students, will be having a particular language. Teenagers will be having a particular language. And then old people or middle-aged people like me will be having a kind of language. So within a language, these are all types of languages. And then tendentious language means a kind of language which supports one particular aspect. It is like a groupism or supporting one idea. They may be temporary or permanent, whatever it is. And then languages of authorities like government. Okay, if you see the government GOs, etc., you will find, though it is English, you will find that that is a bit different from what we use in the classroom or what you write in your answer scripts or in your letters or etc. And then he further says that languages of various circles and of passing fashions. Of course, various circles. We have so many social circles or political circles or economic or professional circles, etc. And passing fashions also. We have nowadays ethnic. Okay. Previously, we never used this word ethnic. Now the word ethnic is very popular in fashion. And all our girls will know what is the changing words in the fashion. And then lastly, he says that languages that serve certain socio-political purposes, okay, socio-political purposes, purposes of the day, even of the hour. Each day has its slogan, its own vocabulary, its own emphasis. So he says language is very dynamic, and you may have the language of an hour also. How, if say for example the students are agitating for something, they will try to develop some kind of slogans, okay, and of course try to coin some words also. And of course those words or slogans will die there itself. And now amidst the COVID situation, we have different languages, forms of language coming up, and then vocabulary is changing, and we have a slogan like stay home, stay safe, etc. So this came. So this, of course, if you analyze, this is a socio-political, not only socio-political, but economics, on the pandemic, the medical emergency we are. And then now we have this slogan like stay home and stay safe, etc. So this language is, don't think that it is for ages, etc. He says that even there are language types, even for an hour. And then and they will have their own vocabulary and its own emphasis. Of course, we should not think that they are insignificant. We can't think that. So these are the many types of stratifications we can find in one language. So one language means what? English, Telugu, Hindi, etc. All languages will have this stratification, which are of course called as languages, within the language within language. So this is how, of course, language is stratified. And this internal stratification that is present in every language at any given point of time or its historical existence, according to Bakhtini, is very indispensable prerequisite of the novel as a genre. So novel as a genre will try to absorb all these stratifications of language in its form, where you won't find this in poetry. And this feature of the novel he terms as Heteroglossia, Raznorisi. This is in Russia. Heteroglossia. Many glosses language. Okay, language within language. This is what, of course, Bakhtin says that novel is very unique because of the presence of heteroglossia, and he says that this heteroglossia will gets manifested in the novel through the five compositional units that he has given us. So now in the first part of the modern stylistics and the novel, he tries to give us an idea of how unique the novel is and what are the compositional units of a novel, unlike the poetry. And in the rest of the essay, of course, we will continue to discuss what else and how he is trying to discriminate the language of poetry from the language of a novel. Okay, so I hope you will understand whatever I have presented. Try to listen once or twice or thrice or even more than that. If you can't follow it, a bit difficult only, and try to take down important points. And also I also advise you to stay home and stay safe. Have a nice day.